Unhospitality, the #1 podcast in the world.
Welcome to Unhospitality. I'm your host, Jeremy, and I am thrilled to be bringing you the untold stories of hospitality. We're going to aim to pull back the lobby curtain and show you what goes on between check-in and check-out. These are all the crazy stories that happen in the hotel and hospitality industry, as told by the professionals who live them. We're tapping into industry experts, people who frequently travel and have seen it all, to hear from their side of the stories. You know, these are the stories, guys, that do not make the hotel marketing material. You're not going to read about these stories on the website, but you will hear these stories talked about in the bar after work, maybe at the restaurant while people are having dinner. The stories that usually start out with some kind of version of, "You will not believe what happened to me at work." I'm ecstatic that we're a month away from launching this podcast, January 2026. Listen for us wherever you listen to your podcast, whether that be Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever your preferred platform is, and watch for us on YouTube. We'll also be broadcasting these videos on YouTube as well. So support us wherever you can. I'm very grateful that you're coming along on this journey with me. It's been a project that I've wanted to do for years, and I'm thrilled to be bringing it to fruition. So we're now in December 2025, and my goal here for the next few weeks is to tease out a few of the stories and some of the things that we're going to highlight from the world of travel, but from my own perspective. And I should mention this too, guys. The folks that we have for the first few episodes of this podcast, I couldn't be happier with the people that we've gathered. We have Croatia represented. We have Portugal represented. We have Spain. We have Mexico. We have Puerto Rico. We have England. We have the good old US of A. These are just the folks that I've been able to recruit to tell their stories. You know, I've been in this industry for 26 years, and the entertaining stories that I have seen with my own eyes, that I have heard from other people, they are enough to write volumes of books. And so, absent of me writing a book, we're going to bring these stories to you on Unhospitality, the podcast. And I'm very much looking forward to sharing these stories with you. Now, I'm going to start out with teasing a few stories from my own experiences. I've got 26 years of experience in this industry. It's hard to believe that I've even been around and lasted this long. But yeah, 26 years, and I've seen a few things. So this story takes place in 2005. I am the director of sales at the Westin and Sheraton Arlucaya Resorts in Freeport, Grand Bahama. It's a beautiful 1,400 room property. It consists of 3 buildings, 2 brands, Sheraton next to the Westin being a little higher end than the Sheraton, but both beautiful properties and literally beachfront. You walked out of your room pretty much onto these powder white sand beaches with crystal clear waters of the Bahamas, some of the best beaches you'll ever see in your entire life. So it's a Monday night, and I'm off property at a rugby practice, and I get a frantic call from the hotel telling me about a screaming client in the lobby. They are so pissed off because they haven't gotten the suite that they reserved. My mind immediately goes to think, who in the world is in the lobby? As director of sales, I usually know, in fact, it's my job to know, who's coming in for a site visit, who's coming in to bring their program or their piece of business with us. You know, it's not like people drive by this hotel in the middle of an island. You've got a plan to get there, and we know who's coming to the island day in and day out as part of our job to be on top of those things. And for the life of me, I can't think of who the heck the client is coming to the hotel. In fact, I'm sure we don't have a site visit set up. So the front desk assures me, yes, this is indeed a client, and yes, they are livid. I come rushing back to the hotel, talk to my front desk. The client is gone at this point and checked into another suite, but she didn't get the suite she wanted. And so I decompress with my front desk. I decompress with my director of revenue management. What happened here and who is this person? Well, it turns out this client had a program with us a year prior. Just before my arrival to the hotel in 2004, this client bought out the Westin portion of the hotel, which is about a 700 room night buyout. Completely took it over from a group perspective. And this was in an era, by the way, when this hotel was not doing a ton of group business. So the fact that she brought a program that was 700 room nights on peak for about 4 nights was a massive coup. It was a huge piece of revenue. In fact, when I got to the property, it had just passed a few weeks back, and the property was still riding very high on the success of this program. The client was thrilled. The hotel was super happy to get all this revenue coming in from this group. Everyone was ecstatic. She was so ecstatic, in fact, that she decided to bring her VIP client, her top client, for his 40th birthday party to our property the following year. So here we are, present day, 2005. She comes with the specific intention to celebrate his birthday and have ground zero for all the celebrations that week in one of our two presidential suites. It was called the Lucayan Suite. The Lucayan Suite sat in a lanai building that was adjacent to the water. Literally, you opened up your patio doors and you walked out into the ocean. It was spectacular. It was a two-decker presidential suite, and that's the suite that she had reserved for this celebration, right? Well, what had happened? Concurrently, at this time, about early 2005, we had the good fortune of contracting Disney Film Studios to host their crew at the hotel while they filmed Pirates of the Caribbean 3. It was such a thrill for the island. They had built the government of the Bahamas, in conjunction with Disney, had built a huge water tank on the island to be able to film most of the crucial scenes in a controlled environment that looked like you were out at sea, but you were actually filming it in a controlled water tank studio. So we had taken over pretty much all of the Sheraton with the crew of Pirates of the Caribbean. And of course, with Pirates of the Caribbean, brought a host of celebrities, including the director, Mr. Gore Verbinski. Gore Verbinski actually took over the Lucayan Suite for several months as they filmed Pirates of the Caribbean 3. So what did that mean? That meant that anyone who had a reservation in that suite for the time frame that he was going to be there, we had to clear out and make alternate arrangements for them. We gave them our other presidential suite because we did have another presidential suite that we were able to offer them. It didn't sit on the water, it was in a tower, but it was a beautiful, tremendous suite that most people were happy with. But when this client got to the property, for some reason, we had missed her reservation. We had moved everyone else out of the suite that had the reservation, with the exception of this huge client who had brought one of the biggest pieces of business to the hotel that it had ever seen. She gets to the property and understandably is livid. She can't believe that we don't have her suite for her, and she wants heads to roll. I attempt to reach out to her on this Monday night and try and make peace. And the conversation went pretty poorly. She hung up the phone on me pretty much saying, "Get me the suite. I don't want to hear from you. I don't want a coffee. I don't want a wine. I don't want anything. Get me this suite." So we're stuck. Now, the good news is we had on inside information that the director, after months of filming, was scheduled to check out on Wednesday. The further good news was that her party didn't start until Thursday. So if all the stars aligned and we had any luck at all, the director was scheduled to check out on Wednesday. She would have her suite by Thursday and everything would be well. We've saved this crisis opportunity here. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. Now, of course, we didn't tell the client this because God forbid there's any rain. God forbid there's any delay in the production or delay in the shooting and this director stays a few extra days. I don't want to disappoint this client twice and promise her we'll get her the suite by Wednesday, only to tell her yet again, sorry, we can't have you in this suite. But sure enough, the director checks out on Wednesday. We're able to get her to the suite the next day on that Thursday. Reception starts that Thursday night with her VIP client that she had brought down, and all is right with the world. He has his family in tow. There's a few other VIP invited guests. Everything worked out for the benefit. But why do I tell you this story? Apart from telling you that sometimes crises happen, sometimes hotels drop the ball, we have to try and do our best to pick up the pieces and make it best for our clients. But the punchline to this whole story, I finally get to meet her because she had avoided me all week long. She didn't want to see me, but I did get to meet her at her opening event on the Thursday. And I said, "Hey, I'm Jeremy. It's nice to meet you. I'm very, very sorry for the way the week started out. It was completely our error. We messed up. Please accept our sincere apologies on behalf of the hotel, but I'm glad everything seemed to have worked out after all." I was quite shocked by her reaction because she looked at me and she said, "Why didn't you just tell me that Johnny Depp was staying in my suite?" I was taken aback. Of course, Johnny Depp was not staying in the suite. I don't know how she got this information. I quickly switched gears and said, "Well, these are things that we can't tell, for privacy reasons, who's staying in which suite. And we obviously need to protect the privacy of our guests in house." And she says, "Oh, of course, I understand that." And this is where I hammed it up a little bit. And I looked at her and I said, "Well, we didn't even change the sheets. So technically you're sleeping in the same sheets that Johnny Depp slept in the night before. And she was tickled and laughed, and we all had a good laugh about it. Of course, she knew that was a bit of an embellishment and a lie. But I walked away from the event. I looked at my manager who was handling the banquet that night, and I said, did you tell her that Johnny Depp was staying in the suite? She said, no, but I didn't have the heart to tell her when she told me that. I don't know where she got her wires crossed to think that Johnny Depp was in the suite. I said, neither do I. We're going to let sleeping dogs lie. So if you're listening, dear client, I'm not going to say your name, but in case you're listening, you've probably been telling people for the last 20 years that you slept in the same bedroom as Johnny Depp. And I hate to break it to you over this podcast, but you were one degree of separation away. The director was there, but just wasn't Johnny Depp. Anyway, a little fun story from the inside. Crisis averted. We were able to get her to the suite, and she's had the pleasure of thinking for the last 20 years that she was one night away from meeting a celebrity that was filming Pirates of the Caribbean 3. Anyway, guys, it's stories like this that we're going to try and tap into, entertaining stories, behind the scene look at hospitality of things that go on day to day within the world of hotels and hospitality. I ask you to join us for this journey. I'm thrilled for the excitement you guys have shown so far as I've teased this idea. I'm going to continue to tease this podcast with a few other stories like this throughout December, and will officially launch in January 2026. Thanks for following along. Until then, safe travels.
Unhospitality, the #1 podcast in the world.